Okay, I think I did it. Yeah. I tell you, these newfangled things. Anyway, I want to really express appreciation for the mothers and what you've done, not only bringing life into this world, but the incredible nurturing and the care and the love that you've given to your children through all the ups and downs. And I know it's very, very difficult at times. Mothers just have a built-in sense of worry about their kids. That never, ever ends. If you're a mother and you have little children, you think, I can't wait till they become adults, so I'll be free of them and I don't have to worry anymore. That's wrong. I had a mother in my office, this was several years ago, and she was very concerned about her son. He had lost his job. She thought he was drinking too much. His marriage wasn't working out, and her son was 67. Honest to God. She was still worried about her little boy. For years, philosophers, great teachers, spiritual leaders, spiritual masters have all talked about this type of existence that's available to us, a way of living that we can elevate up to that is free of worry, it's free of anxiety, free of fears. It's the ultimate experience of life with a greater amount of fulfillment and reward and sense of well-being. The Buddhists call it nirvana. And they say it is like a gentle breeze that finds everything worthy of caress. The Hindus call it a mystical union with Brahman, their chief god. The Zoroastrians call it paradise, and they say it's when the loveliest becomes lovelier. And Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven. Now, somewhere along the line, the kingdom of heaven got hijacked. And it was taken from a way of thinking, a way of doing, a way of living, to being something that was a reward that had to be earned, and we had to do certain things during this lifetime, and then somebody up there was going to judge us as to whether we could get into heaven or not. And if we were deemed unworthy of heaven, then we'd be sent to hell and suffer for eternity. That's not what Jesus taught at all. Jesus taught the kingdom of heaven was simply a way to live here and now. And when the disciples said, where can we find this kingdom of heaven? He says, I can't tell you where to find it. I can't tell you to go there or to go there. I can't tell you which way to the kingdom of heaven because it's all around you. It's everywhere. It's just that you don't see it. He said, the kingdom of heaven isn't out there. It is within you. And when asked several times, how can we experience this kingdom of heaven? 10 times in the gospel, Jesus responds with, become like a little child. Now, what exactly did he mean by that? He didn't mean become childish in our ways. He didn't mean lose our maturity. He didn't mean to lose the intelligence and the knowledge that we've gained as adults. But he meant going back to capturing that nature that little children have for perceiving life, for seeing things, for reacting with life and moving through life. The thing about it is little children don't know worry. Think about that for a minute. They do not know worry. Little children don't know fear or anxiety about the future. Little children don't know resentment or anger about things that have been happening in the past. They don't know discrimination. All of these things are just foreign to these little kids because it's not within their nature to live. See, little children come into this world and we're here to teach them naturally. We're here to teach them how to grow into adults and to be responsible and to be safe and to be secure. But also they're here to teach us or to remind us of how life can be. Does anybody in here think that it's possible for you to live a life where you don't worry anymore? Yeah. If you don't think that's possible, you've done it before. There was a time when you did not know worry, but then it was taught to you and you took it on. You became conditioned to worry about certain things, whether it was valid worry or not valid worry. It's the same thing with all these other primary things that plague our peace of mind and our sense of well-being. All things that we've learned that we didn't come into this world with. All things that aren't natural to or not within the nature of our divine, spiritual, perceptive abilities. I've invited 5 mothers to join me on stage today. And I've asked them to share with us what the most important thing is that they've learned from their child. And I'd like the mothers to come up now, if you would, please. Help me at the chairs. Okay. Ooh. Well, let's just get these straight here.
Straight, okay.
There we go. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Good to see you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming. I know I asked many of you several weeks ago to do this, and for some of you, I know it's probably been on your mind, and there's perhaps been a little bit of anxiety or worry around it. It can be discomforting to sit in the midst of 400 or 500 people like this and have to speak from your heart about things that are very important to you. But I want you to know this, as you look out on the people sitting here, there's nothing but love in their eyes. They're here to support you, they're here to love you, and they're really anxious to hear what you have to say. In regards to Nancy here, I asked her 4 minutes ago, and so she didn't have to suffer through the anxiety. But because of that, perhaps we'll start down on this end to give her some time to think. This is Andy Shoemate, and she has a little boy, how old?
4.
4. So why don't you tell us your son's name and...
My son's name is Andrew, and he's 4 years old. And the biggest lesson I've learned from him is to live in the moment and appreciate the small things in life. It's very easy when I'm with him to shut out all the things that are on my mind and just relish the moment that I'm spending with him. It's easy, not just because I'm on pins and needles to see how Curious George is going to solve his latest dilemma, or I'm just dying to know what the number and letter of the day are on Sesame Street. It's because I'm aware that every moment with him is so precious. With little kids, they change and grow so quickly, and I know one day he's not going to want me to sit and watch TV with him anymore, so I need to make sure I get my time in while I can. So what I'm really focusing on is learning to take that awareness of how precious life is and apply it to other aspects of my life. It's a very small lesson, but it's very poignant as well. Trying to navigate this big, complex world, it's not an easy feat for a constant worrier, overthinker, overanalyzer to stop and appreciate the moment. But I'm working on just focusing on the little steps, enjoying the gradual process, and trying to avoid that big picture that pops in my mind when I think, well, at this pace, I'll never get there, so I might as well just give up. But I'm realizing it's the small things in life that make life so interesting after all. So I think back on all the nights I laid in bed, sleepless, tossing and turning, worrying about whatever it was that was so important at the time, and realized I should have fallen asleep counting my blessings instead. I have to remind myself, no matter how bad I think my problems are, there are 100 people that will get in line tomorrow and trade my problems for their problems, so mine must not be that bad. I just need to work on putting them in the background and not giving them such prime real estate in my life, so there is time to relish in all the good things that are in life, because there are so many. So I sit here before you on this Mother's Day with a fresh start and a new resolve to not just live in the moment, but to truly be present and happy that I get to be a part of this very moment. Thank you.
And next we have Peggy Chilson.
Wow, oh wow, this is live. Everything she said, times 10. I didn't make any notes, so I'm really gonna live in the moment. My son is Asa, and he's almost 10. And one of the things that I've learned from my son, well, actually, I asked him the other day, I said, what is it that I've learned from you? What do you think you've taught me? And he said, well, you know, Mom, I could teach you a whole lot more, millions of things, if you would just pay attention to me. So I guess I could learn a lot about video games and Minecraft and Harry Potter and a lot of things that apparently I'm not paying attention to. Because one of the things I've learned about having a child is that you have to have balance. There's all these wonderful things that children give to us, and as adults, we teach them to be adult-like, and of course, as Duke was saying, we have to learn from them to be childlike. And, you know, I'm learning a whole lot about being childlike, and it's really lovely. When they're really little and you get on the floor and play games with them, you learn so much about, you know, staying in the moment. But even that childlike wonder of what the universe has to provide for us and what we have to learn is something that my son has helped me keep that present in the forefront of my mind. So, yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Crockett, and I am the lucky mom of Evan, who is 7, Elizabeth, who is 4, and Zachary, who is 2. And I know all about being calm and tranquil. I don't know, Jack, about that. My house is so not calm. But that's okay. You know, maybe a different day it'll be calm. What I have learned from my children is to believe in magic. And to believe in magic first. Before I had kids, I could believe in magic. I could get there eventually. But I had to exhaust every other possible option before magic even came into the back of my brain. And then fighting tooth and nail, I might at some point say, well, I can't describe it, I can't explain it, it must be magic. But my children have taught me that that's the first answer. That's where you start from. Well, of course it's magic, Mommy. Of course my best friend Astrid is magic. Just because you can't see her doesn't mean she is not there. She is my best friend and I love her. Well, of course you do. Yeah, I mean, why didn't I think of that? I wish, as I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you guys and how I wanted to do this, I wanted to tell you why my kids believe in magic, but I don't really know. But I have a sense of it. I have a sense that part of the reason that they can believe, you know, they can answer the question, how does Santa Claus get all the presents into the houses that don't even have the chimneys and all in one night? Well, duh, magic. Right? But I think the reason they can answer that way is because I don't tell them they can't. And that's part of the reason that I'm here, is because you don't tell them they can't either. That's part of what's beautiful about our community of faith, is that we agree that we believe in magic. Now, we may call it faith or we may call it grace, but we kind of just agree that, well, heck yeah, magic's there, and we're going to make sure that it stays there. And every week we invite all these kiddos up here, and we affirm them, right? And they affirm us back. And so we have this kind of quiet agreement that magic's okay. Because really, I mean, how does a caterpillar become a butterfly, right? What's the right answer, gang? Magic. Yeah, there's all the science stuff, and I learned this year what a chrysalis was. But really, that is magic. Plain and simple, gorgeous, beautiful magic. And that's what I want always to remember from my children, is that the first answer is magic.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Pat Crockett. Yes, this is my daughter. In the last month, 2 particularly interesting things have happened to me. One was I was asked to be in the Nielsen television rating Sweeps Week. It really exists. It's a miracle because I haven't had cable TV in over 30 years. Believe in miracles. The other thing was I was asked to participate in this unity celebration of mothers. No one had ever asked me what I watched on television, and certainly no one had ever asked me what the most important thing I'd learned from my children was. I really had to think about the question of what I'd learned from my children. So I did what any thoughtful, insightful, really intelligent woman would do. I asked my girlfriends. Debbie said, life is not black and white, develop tolerance. Diana said, be supportive, but let go. Let children have their independence. You can nurture and guide your children, but you can't try to change your children or you will break their spirit. Jane said, I learned how to love from my children. As a child, I never heard my parents say, I love you. I was always looking for love, usually in the wrong places. I never felt at home, but when I had children, I learned about love. I learned how to love and how to be loved. I called my son in Seattle, my favorite son, my only son, and I asked him what he thought I had learned from him. He said he thought I had learned not to get too tied to my expectations of my children. I learned to let them be who they were. Deb said, let children have their own struggles. And she gave the example of the monarch butterfly. I think there's a genetic code going on here. You know, this man's watching the monarch butterfly come out of the chrysalis, and he's so worried about the intense struggle that he cuts the ends off to free the butterfly. Of course, the butterfly comes out, but the wings are deformed. Let children have their own struggles. Peg said that she learned unconditional love and detachment, and my friend in Austin had the best one. What she learned from her children, the most important thing is, if you spray hairspray on dust bunnies and run over them with roller blades, they will ignite. After I listened to my friends' answers about what they learned from children, I thought a lot about my response to what I'd learned from my children, and I decided that I'd learned everything from my kids. I learned about authentic trust. I learned to encourage a vivid imagination. I learned about listening carefully. And finally, I learned how important it is to have a good sense of humor. As I reminisced, I remembered the importance of being a trustworthy parent. For example, if you tell your teenager they can always call you and you will come and get them, no matter where they are or what they are doing, with no questions asked, and then one dark and stormy night they call you, you go to pick them up in a questionable place at an extremely late hour, keep your word. Do not ask questions. Just wait. They will tell you everything by the next day anyway. This builds trust, and trust is essential in a loving relationship. I learned authentic trust from my children. Einstein said that imagination is more important than information. I learned from my children the importance of imagination. My son wrote soap operas when he was in the 3rd grade. He used my old manual typewriter that he found in a closet upstairs. His soap opera was entitled The Young and the Runtless. By the way, although soap operas are fine, I had never watched a soap opera in my life. I did not know where he got the idea to write an original soap opera screenplay at age 8. My son asked my daughter and me to play characters in his TV series. We were to be Hess Valdez and Mona McManus. He actually made up those character names. He came down to the dining room one day with type contracts regarding costumes for the actors. He wanted my daughter and me to agree to wear ace bandages across our chests as our signature costume. What a wonderful, vivid imagination. I spent that year remembering to read the fine print in contracts and appreciating a vivid imagination. I also learned from my children the importance of listening carefully. The summer my daughter was 3, there was a great green summer storm. She and I slept late that day. In the cozy time, as we were waking up, she asked me a question. Mommy, what means heavy-duty tampons? She was 3 and my firstborn. I thought I was the great egalitarian Earth Mother. modern and wise. I replied something like, well, tampons are grown-up ladies' cosmetic, and when you think of them again, or you really want more details about using them, just come back and ask me. I really thought I had nailed that answer. I was a full-blown modern mother. I had slayed the weird question dragon. Then my 3-year-old daughter looked up at me and said, "You don't know either, huh?" Yeah. Life with children is an adventure, and I believe all adventures really require a good sense of humor. I am a grandmother now. Do you know the biggest difference between grandmothers today and grandmothers in my childhood? When I was a kid, there were no blonde grandmas. Today, you can find a blonde grandmother on every street corner. It is a great time to be living this adventure called life. From my children, I have learned to trust, to encourage a vivid imagination, to listen carefully, to always remember that life is a work in progress. And perhaps the most important thing I've learned from my children is not to take myself too seriously, to laugh often and love much. Thank you for your kind attention. I leave you with my very best wishes for a happy Mother's Day.
Well, I'm Nancy Addy. I have 3 children, 2 daughters, Megan, who is 36, Lauren, who is 35, and Sean, who is 30. When I was about 16 or 17 years old, my mother said to me, "You know, when you become a mom, you give up 15 years of your life." When I turned 20, my mom said, "You know, when you become 20, you give up 20 years of your life." When I turned 30, my mom said, "You know, when you turn 30, you give up 30 years of your life with those kids." And it happens every 10 years. My mom's told me how much she's given up of her life. Now, she's given it up with a lot of love, too. But when I was a new parent for the first time, I was not a baby person, and it was not a happy time of life for me. How everybody loves those little babies, I didn't. I wanted, well, you know, I loved mine, but I really didn't want a whole lot to do with them. And I remember taking both of the girls in, they were 22 months apart, to the physician. They were both sick, and after she took care of them, she looked at me and said, "And how are you doing?" And I burst into tears. "I hate being a mom. I hate it." And I felt so bad because everybody I knew loved being a mom, and it was just this huge guilt trip. So she patted me on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. Some people are good infant moms. Some people are good toddler moms. You're going to be a good teenage mom." And I said, "I hope so, because I sure hate it now." And she was absolutely right. The older they got, the better I liked parenting. And so I have 3 little vignettes here that to me explain being a female, how I feel about other women, and being a mom and a grandma now. When I was a child, I was sexually abused by my stepfather, and growing forward, I always carried it with me that it was somehow my fault. And one of the biggest things my 2 daughters taught me is when they were about 6, 7 years old, and they were skipping out of the bathtub and totally naked, running through the house, yelling, screaming, just so full of joy, vim, vigor themselves, it hit me in the face. Oh my God, it wasn't my fault. I was just being this little girl. It was not my fault. And from that moment on, that guilt I had carried with me, the sense of that I had done something wrong, was gone. And I think that's probably the biggest gift I got from my children, is it was just being me, like little kids are being them. And then this morning, for some reason, when I got up, I just had this big sense to write to all of these female friends of mine, and I sent them this little message this morning. If you are a female, then you are a mother. Some of us nurture children. Some of us nurture and love pets, friends, nieces, nephews, aging parents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, husbands, and any stray creature that comes in our path that needs a mother's nurturing touch and that is a part of every female. And then on the way down here this morning, I was looking, had turned my phone off early so that it wouldn't vibrate or make noise during church, and I'm sitting there and it vibrated in the car. And it was a beautiful little text from my daughter Lauren, who gave me the gift of a granddaughter in October. And Lauren had a little picture with it, and she said, "This is me and my little baby asleep," because her husband had taken a picture of the two of them asleep. And then she said, "Happy Mother's Day to the mom who has shown me how to love my daughter." And that's all I need to say.
Well, I want to thank you all for participating. You can go back to your seats now, and let's give them one more round of applause. I believe one of the key words I heard there was trust. And little children have a natural inherited trust within them. They don't have a lot of anxiety about what might happen. It is present moment living, but they trust life. They trust that their needs will be provided for. And they trust that everything is going to work out okay in kind of an unconscious sense. And for myself, and perhaps many of you, as I've grown older, I've learned there's been times when that trust just kind of began to deteriorate. And it got to the point where I didn't trust what might happen next. If I was having dealing with a problem or a challenge, I didn't trust that it would come out okay. I didn't trust that I had what it would take to make it through some of the more difficult and disturbing times. I didn't trust God to take care of me. I didn't trust anything. That made life a very, very difficult experience. So perhaps as we move into meditation, we can move in with a sense of renewing our trust and knowing that there is one power and one presence in the universe. That is God, the good, omnipotent. And that God's Spirit is within each and every one of us, and we can trust that it will provide for us whatever we need when we need it. We'll now move into meditation. Allow the next few minutes to be your time, a time when you're free of worry, free of any problems or challenges you might be facing, free of any disturbances or upsets. It's your time to just be here, to rest and relax in the silence, to reflect on your life as one of the greatest miracles. To know, beyond doubt, that you're a good person living a good life. And you're always moving, never stuck. Every setback is simply a stepping stone towards a higher good. As we move into the silence, just become aware of the thoughts that float through your mind. And as they do so, bless them like a cloud passing by overhead. And just return to that center place of peace and well-being in the silence. Slowly begin to come back to this time and this place. And do so with a renewed sense of trust, knowing that everything will work out. You will move forward. You have life to live. Live it triumphantly. And so it is.
Just